Professionals of tomorrow. We are a team of a million unique and powerful individuals.
Oh, I did not want a commercial.
And you can take on anything.
You're getting paid for that.
Warrior. Find out at GoArmy.com.
Hi, Dr. Mary.
Hey, Dee, how are you?
I'm well. Quinn sent me this new song last night. And I felt like since we started with some funk, we should end with some funk.
Oh, it's funk time. I do my Irish jig funk. How's that?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's really fun. Let me just do this. Okay. Oh, how are you?
I'm good. You're coming home today.
I am coming home today. I'm ready. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay, you have to speak. It's a video.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a photo.
One of these moving
No,
pictures.
we've only done 48 of these, so I can see that it's
Moving
confusing.
pictures with sound.
Uh-huh.
God, what do they think of next?
Probably, yeah, hard to say. Probably live streaming. What are we talking about today, Dr. Mary?
One of the articles that you and I were banding about actually caught my eye when I read it a second time again. It's Am I boring now I don't drink was the title of the article.
Which we have talked about sort of loosely lots and lots of times, because you often bring up that was kind of a fear of yours. But what about this article in particular did you find compelling?
It was just, they just totally addressed it. And the person who wrote this went on to say, you know what, life is boring sometimes. Not every day is an adrenaline rush. And there's a quote that she puts in here that I find quite interesting. It says, sobriety becomes an exercise in relearning how to be an average person who can manage some discomfort without trying to make it prettier for themselves.
Oh, so how do you think you did that? I mean, let me, I guess, ask the question differently. Do you think that's why you started drinking?
I don't really know, but I was depressed and fed up, and I wasn't depressed and fed up with anything in particular. I don't know if I was, you see, you don't make that connection of, I felt like you and I were becoming more distant, and I didn't make the connection it was because I was drinking, which made me feel worse. But, everything just started just being not fun.
So what's interesting is that, well, boy, I'm having a hard time articulating. I'm sorry, I have a ton of stuff on my brain right now. Did you feel like drinking made things more fun? No.
They made me be able to cope with things not being fun.
Oh, because what's so interesting is, so that was your inside out perspective. The outside in perspective was, oh my gosh, he's killing the fun.
Yeah, trying to preserve fun by killing fun. And there's another quote in this article that says, boring, in her opinion, is the most useful adjective in the English language.
Oh, adjective, yes. Why? Does she explain that?
We're not actually bored. We're just uncomfortable with our day-to-day life, and that we don't know what to do about it.
What's so interesting is that that's just life. I mean, who hasn't been bored? It's one of the great things you hear people talk about today as a challenge with the fact that we're all so hooked into technology. For instance, kids don't have to just sit in the car on long car rides anymore and look up at the clouds or watch the fields go by and use their imagination, because they're all head down in some device, as are adults. But we don't have a lot of run-of-the-mill pure boredom in our lives anymore, because we've really done away with it with technology. So it'll be interesting to see if that if that increases or decreases addiction in this next generation. Do you have a thought on that?
Well, it is actually really interesting. I don't have a thought on that, actually.
Because I feel like one of the things that I am aware of is how little time I do just give myself to wonder. You know, if I'm at a stoplight, what do? Oh, I immediately check my phone. What am I checking my phone for? Like, I have a relatively busy life, but it's not that fast paced. So how this boredom thing is really, really an interesting problem. And if it was a problem for our generation, I just think it's going to be harder even for the next, maybe. Or maybe they'll just never, maybe bored will take on a whole different meaning. I mean, don't you find yourself today scrolling through Facebook out of boredom only to realize how bored you are by scrolling through Facebook? I have that moment a lot. So maybe it's just a different activity, but the experience is the same. So what else about this article did you find interesting, or did you want to talk about?
You know, she went on to say, you know, I took my friend's advice and I got alcohol and stared at the sea in self-reflection, but it wasn't enough for her.
I'm sorry, I had a hard time understanding you. I got alcohol what?
And stared at the sea.
Oh, stared at the sea. Okay.
You know, it's just a thing, oh, I can relax, but you can't, because drinking and relaxing is something you can't do.
But why do people use alcohol to relax then?
Because it's a crutch. And I think, according to this, it's because they're bored and they're afraid of being bored. It does dull.
You think that's true?
It does dull your brain activity.
Yeah, but do you think for the random person who pours themselves a glass of wine while making dinner, that it's because they're trying to dull themselves?
There is a point where when you drink, the first couple are fun. You know, you get giggly. I mean, everyone does that. You're at a dinner party, you've had a couple of drinks, and all of a sudden everything's super funny. But if you keep going, it gets morose. And if you drink more often, two things happen. You build up a tolerance for drinking. You do become, you know, you realize that you need to have a drink, and it takes longer to feel like you're not bored. That's part of that addiction arc.
I do think that it's really important in our conversations, because so many of these articles that I'm finding off of Medium, because one time I clicked on one article about alcoholism, and so now, of course, I get 700 of them a day. But those are all written by addicts in various form of recovery. And I think it's important to not make blanket statements, which I don't think we do very often. But this feels a little blanket statement-y to me, this conversation, in the sense of, well, if you're pouring yourself a glass of wine, it's because you're trying to dull your life and you're trying to, I'm not sure I agree with that.
Some people, when you start, you're actually trying to make the world a prettier place because it makes you think happy thoughts. But after a while, you can't do that.
I'm sure that that is true, but I would argue that, let's take me, for example. So I haven't had any alcohol in 2 weeks, which has been great. And I hope to continue it. But I don't drink wine when I'm making dinner to make things prettier. I drink wine when I'm making dinner because it makes me feel sophisticated. Like, if I really dig down into what I'm doing, that's what people who have some money, people who have the luxury of getting to make a multi-faceted meal, that's what people who, you know, it's all part of this sophistication that is, I think, really tied into one of the most serious areas of alcohol abuse, which is that if you're wealthy and educated and the right kind of class, you don't have a drinking problem because you're too sophisticated for that, which we know is not true. But I think that's some of what happens to me. I was talking to my mom the other day and I said something about how I very intentionally didn't bring any alcohol on this retreat. And she said, well, what do you mean? Like, why? Because my mom doesn't drink at all. And I said, because it would have been way too easy to, at 11 o'clock, think, you know what, I'm just going to pour myself a glass of wine. And she said, 11 o'clock in the morning? And she was, I think, thinking like I needed to be carted off to the, which president's wife started, who cares? Either Lady Bird Johnson or Pat Nixon, I can't remember. But, you know, it's easy to fall into that trap, particularly in this environment I've been in, because I'm writing. And if you watch movies about writers, they're all highly sophisticated and they all drink all the time. Well, that's a lie.
I haven't actually read his book. There's extracts of it online. And one of the things, you know, when I got sober, one of the things I tried, one of the exercises is find someone famous that you appreciate as an actor or an artist, and see if, you know, if they're a recovering alcoholic, see if you can get a new appreciation out of them. Of course, my favorite recording artist, as you well know, Mr. Midge, from,
as everyone on the planet who's ever listened to a single one of these knows.
He's an alcoholic, and he became an alcoholic, and he actually says that, or he actually wrote that, you know, I'm very successful. Like, you know, I have, you know, he's a millionaire. And it was, when I was writing lyrics, it was the sophistication of having a cocktail.
Yeah.
Kick back, write lyrics for a song. He said it made it easier to write. And he said, I didn't even realize all of a sudden I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is why I didn't bring any alcohol with me, because it would have been really easy to decide that I wanted to use these 2 weeks as sort of a safe place to test. Well, what happens if I do drink? Maybe my creativity will get really enhanced, or maybe I'll, you know, who knows? But it's funny. I didn't trust myself. And I don't think that's because I live with an addict enjoying sobriety. I think that's because even before that, I understood how seemingly easily you could kind of fall into that. And I didn't want to do two things while I was here. One, I didn't want to waste time feeling hungover in the mornings, having headaches, having to nap in the afternoon because I'd started drinking at 11. Sorry, mother, I didn't.
You had some toast too, it's all right.
I didn't want to do that. And I didn't want it to get comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, there are things now about what I have been in the rhythm of, that when I get home this afternoon, tomorrow morning, when I wake up, I'm going to have to break some rhythms, and they're all super positive rhythms. You know, I'm not going to get to walk 9 miles a day, those kinds of things. But I did not want to have to come home and sort of pull myself up by the bootstraps to dial back my drinking. And I just very intentionally didn't do that. So that's a long way of answering. For me, it's not about pretty or avoiding boredom. It's about playing sophisticated, which I think is very, very dangerous for me.
Weirdly for me, I embrace, you know, if a day with nothing goes on, you say to me sometimes, what did you do today? I think, yeah, kind of nothing. I did what I needed to do. I watched a movie or something.
Yeah.
Now, as long as I didn't do that at the expense of you and I doing something together, that's a win.
Yeah.
You can actually sit there going, you know what? I've made the bed. I have accomplished something. I actually finished my work. It's okay to have nothing to do sometimes. Or I know now that it's very easy, if I want to do something, that I could actually do it because I'm in a very fit state to go and do anything the hell I want.
Yeah.
And that is, to me, one of the biggest blessings of being sober. It's okay to be bored.
Yeah, in fact, it's good to be bored. That's where your mind allows you to think of new things.
Yeah. And it doesn't just sit there going, God, I'm bored.
Yeah. Well, you know, what's great is that it takes it off of you, and
Yeah.
it just becomes an experience. It's not about, well, the day was boring because I'm boring. It was just boring because
Yeah.
it was boring.
And this is what this article's about. It's, you know, you have to relearn that fact that, you know, not every day is a murder mystery.
Yeah. Yes, which isn't too bad.
There are
All right.
there are days when a murder squad detective would sit on his desk reading a magazine, going, "Well, no one's been murdered. One.
Not according to any Masterpiece movies or series, but beyond that, absolutely.
Yeah, you know,
All
it's
right.
watching Endeavour. Oxford must be a dangerous place to live.
Very dangerous. We were very lucky not to be killed the 2 times we were there. Dr. Mary, I will see you in person later today.
Fantastic.
To everybody who watched us kind of fumble our way through Zoom live streams over these past 2 weeks, we really appreciate it. We're going to finish up our 50th episode on Friday. Our goal initially was to get to 100, and then we'll stop and assess and see what we think. So we're almost halfway there. Our audience is growing. We'd love to see it grow more. So if you have anybody who should be watching these, there's lots and lots of ways to get them.
Well, maybe
involved.
how about if anyone's got a suggestion of what they want to talk about in this content, get in contact with us. We'll take
Yeah.
requests.
And maybe we'll bring in some guests in this
Yeah.
second half on the way to 100 as well, because I think it's time to hear some other voices. Dr. Mary, thanks so much for being so great about me being gone for 2 weeks.
Oh, well, I did see you briefly for our anniversary,
But still, not everybody would have been great about that. Not everybody would have been so supportive. And you certainly wouldn't have been 4 years ago. So don't think that I don't appreciate that your sobriety has also led to great, great gifts for me as well.
It's a blessing for everyone around us, and that's something everyone should remember.
Yeah.
You get to be a productive member of a family unit again.
Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you together tomorrow.
See you later, lover.
Bye, Mezzy. Love you.
Love you too. Bye.